Hey, what up? It's okay. I'm taking my hand like all the way apart today because it is just gross. So I gotta blow it apart to the super tiny pieces and then put it all back together, get it to all work because I'm supposed to be on a plane tomorrow. So, we'll see how it goes. And guys, do me a favor. Let me know if it goes into potato mode. I'm not in an area that has the best internet, so if it gets too crappy, let me know, and I'll sign off and do whatever. Oh my gosh. This thing is just so gross right now. I mean, it's been a while since I've taken it all apart and cleaned it up. Just dropped a bearing. That sucks. Oh well, I will find that bearing later. So I am using acetone and diesel and brake clean. And hopefully I can get it to where it goes back together good enough to work. All right. Well, these are tough. I don't want to blow them all the way apart. It just needs cleaning. It's probably been, it's probably been 3 months, 4 months since I've taken it apart and actually cleaned it. And I did a lot of, I've been doing a lot of welding and grinding and just dirty work with it lately. So, what up? What up from Poland? So it's just, you know, taking it apart, getting all the gross parts. A lot of it you just can't get just by, putting it in water and awesome. I was in Scotland last year. I gave a talk in, I gave a talk in Edinburgh, and And also, then I did the, what was it, Maker Central. Yeah, so this isn't anything, you know, too out of the ordinary. It's just, every so often you got to really take it apart and, actually clean it. What happens is it gets a little bit draggy when, you move the fingers and that type of thing. Just things don't move as smooth as as they should. The trick is getting it back together to where it's all smooth without having a lot of dinking with it. But even after the ultrasonic, I mean, this is still just. So I'm actually cleaning this up with kerosene in the ultrasonic, and then I use PB Blaster as a penetrating oil. I use brake clean, and then I use silicone lubricant. But it's pretty gross. Well, I wouldn't sell you one of mine. I would build you one of yours. Where are you located? Well, thanks. It has been a journey, hasn't it? So have you downloaded the check socket to make sure that it would fit? So there's a check socket that's on Prusa's website that I would have you download and print to make sure it looks like this. To make sure that your hand is about the right size, to where it would fit the width and, that it would fit the size of the mechanism. I am in America. I use Imperial for most everything. Well, thanks. Yeah, no, I prefer to see the gadgetry of it. Also, anything extra that you add, is extra weight that you're packing around. If you were to, make a bunch of plastic guards and junk, then it's, that's extra weight, not really serving a real purpose. Man, really, I need to take this, like, all apart. Like, pins and everything. Unfortunately, I need to be on a plane tomorrow, so that's probably not going to happen. So have you seen the video of how I show how to make the sockets doing vacuum resin composites with a food sealer? A lot. I have made a lot of hands. This is probably the 16th or 17th hand that I've made. This is the 5th of this series of devices. I never have a problem. They swab it for explosives, and that's it. I don't take it off for the airport. I don't anything. I just, they swab it, and that's it. God, this thing is so gross. It is so dirty. That's too bad. What do you mean, join me? Yeah, I know that for like Naked, they've been using some of my design things as inspiration of some of the stuff that they're putting together currently, which is awesome. And I know that Point Designs is using my story to kind of further the whole idea that at least in America, that we need more SIC codes for insurance to cover devices like mine. So hopefully I am making a difference. I'd like to think that I'm making a difference. So I use a Shinzoa ANS, and then I also use an Acrolock M12. They're both machines that I've converted over to using like Mach 2, 3, 4, whatever. Okay, so for his socket, I would do it vacuum resin composite, kind of like how I showed in that video a couple months ago. But you know, the idea of using the auto scanner is exactly on. Use that to scan his residual limb, and then use Mesh Mixer to cut that scan apart, and then offset it by 3 millimeters, and then print up that shell, and then use that to make a plaster buck, and then do just regular fiberglass and like cotton roving for the build of the socket, and that'll work awesome. Yeah, there's a video. Actually, there's a couple videos on how to do it. Also, look at the Halloween mask video on how to use Mesh Mixer. That one I go pretty in depth on how to do it. You know, on how to use the Mesh Mixer, and then how to cut up the models. I think that would actually really help you. You know, and yeah, you're right. You know, if the sockets don't fit, he's not going to wear his device. I mean, socket comfort is so incredibly important. You know, if the socket doesn't fit and it isn't comfort, you know, if it isn't comfortable, or if it, you know, like in your friend's case, it falls off, you know, he's not going to wear it. He's not going to wear it at all. So, you know, that's so super important. You know, and it's overlooked by a lot of clinicians, just how important. You know, and that's why I'm a big proponent of, you know, teaching somebody how to modify their socket, you know, because then they can, you know, spend whatever time it takes, you know, to build a socket that fits them perfectly. You know, whereas a clinician's just trying to get it done, you know, as fast as he can to make, you know, relatively a suitable result. You know, I mean, the best clinician in the world is never going to know what it feels like to wear the socket that they're building. You know, unless they're an amputee themselves, you know, you don't know what it feels like to wear a device. You know, and that's how it is on any of these things. You know, it could be the most beautiful socket and all that, and if it doesn't fit, you're not going to wear it. Man, the ultrasonic didn't do anything on this. That's a shame. Yeah. Um, do you have anybody that comes to America? Like where in America? Are they East Coast or West Coast, or where do they come in? Awesome, thank you. Cancer. I got a bone infection after cancer, after my stem cell transplant for multiple myeloma. But doesn't come to the west coast of the U.S.? Well, I mean, I was in my shop. What happened is, I smacked my hand on some metal during my 100 days after the stem cell transplant, and because I had such low bone density, um, it fractured the bones. I was within my 100 days, after transplant, so you could die at any time. I didn't really have much of an immune system, so then I found a surgeon that would, put my fingers back together, and they put K-wires, in the centers of the bone. So if you use like a wicking material, it's gonna get gross. It fills full of sweat and just gets smelly and gross. What I use is just straight fiberglass, fiberglass and resin, and then I wash it out with Dawn dish soap. Yeah, so after they wired my fingers back together, then I got a blood infection, bone infection, septicemia, gangrene, you're going to die. So then they took one finger off to lessen the infective load on my immune system. Then I went back home, came back up for observation, and they're like, "Ooh, you are not healing. You are not doing so good." So then they took another finger off because, because I wasn't healing. And I went back home, came back up. Ooh, dude, I don't know what you got going on, but it is not looking good. You're scheduled for emergency surgery tomorrow. So they took another finger off, went back home, came back up. Man, this is going to be your last surgery because you are not going to make it if we put you down again. So, and then they took my pinky off, and then I was on 24-hour antibiotics, IV antibiotics, and it got bad there for a minute. And then I got better. They figured out what it was, and got better, but, you know, now they've taken all my fingers off. And that sucked. All right. So let's put this back together. All right, so that's an index in the middle. And a ring and a pinky. Thanks, I will try. I need to get this all back together because I'm supposed to be on an airplane tomorrow morning. All right, so ring, pinky, index, middle. I probably should have taken this apart yesterday. Thanks. And I'm going to use the long bolts this time. Let's use the long bolts. And hopefully I can get it to where it doesn't wiggle around too much. Right? And then it's getting it all tuned up to where it works good. Okay, chain's not twisted. You know, the thing is, you know, where I've been... Oh, yeah, no, I tried the myomechanical there for a while. I tried... you know, I have done lots of different versions of these hands. And the reason why I don't do the electronics is because batteries die. And they don't like to get wet. And they don't like to get dirty. And, you know, when you throw a, you know, an Arduino or a Raspberry Pi or anything like that onto it, then they get slow. Because, you know, you always have a processor that's trying to figure out if you're moving your hand or thinking about moving your hand or anything like that. All right, so that goes like that. That goes like that. This is the ring finger. All right. All right, I'm going to start with the ring finger. Yeah, so, you know, you always... Okay, say if you're running, say, 5 contacts and a ground, you know, it's always got to be checking to see if you're, you know, trying to make a motion. You know, so, I mean, it spends, you know, 90% of its time just looking for you to be doing something. You know, so all that time, you know, the processor's still running. And then, you know, depending on how large of a language model you're going to be running, you know, once you know, because you're going to be using EEG or EMG for your sensors, you know, then it's got to interpret the motion, and then it's got to determine what it wants for the output. So, you know, you can end up being, you know, a second, 2 seconds worth of interpretation and processing, which when you're, you know, when you're wanting to use it, you know, as your hand, you know, something as basic as your hand, you know, yeah, that gets incredibly frustrating, you know, because you're like, okay, close the fingers, you know, and you're just waiting for it, you know, and waiting, and, you know, that just, that gets frustrating. So frustrating. Yeah, but feet are different. So fingers have 26 degrees, hands on a total have 26 degrees of freedom. Whereas feet you're only doing a couple things. So it's a completely different, it's completely different application, completely different animal. Well, yeah, and then you got to figure how much what's a real signal and what is just noise, or what is just a nervous tick, what is and you still have to determine. Oh, it is. No, body powered is so the way to go. It is 100% better. And if you can do it mechanically, um, then you don't have batteries. You don't have to worry about, batteries dying, or, it getting wet, or anything. Well, and you got to figure, okay, so for the sensors, you're having to use the interossei muscles that are in between the metacarpals, because when you pronate, supinate your hand, it changes the position of where the sensor array would be on your forearm. That's truly what the issue is if you're trying to control hand with sensors that are on the forearm. So you end up having to use these three muscles in between your fingers. Well, the distance between them is basically nothing. So, you can end up, getting so much noise. So I don't. All of mine is all mechanical. But if you were going to do myomechanical, to where it's a hybrid setup, to where you'd use the myoelectric for the grip pattern selection, and then you would use mechanical for actually moving the fingers, then that's how you would do it. Nope. So one of my early ones, I was using the 60 kilogram per centimeter servos, and it wasn't enough. And they were slow. I mean, even those with a 0.12 second for 100 degrees, they were still incredibly slow to use. I mean, they were too slow. And then, you have to, then you have to do a bunch of voltage, voltage regulation, because those servos run on 7.4 volt, and your Arduino only wants to run on either 3.2 or 5 volts. So then and then for your EMG, then you're running a 9 volt plus a zero common ground, and then 9 volt negative. So it ends up being you end up having to be like 3 or 4 different voltage combinations, and it's such a pain in the butt. And then it's still slow. You still run into the issue with latency. Even if you go and do just a modest training for the language model, So, but then you're trading speed. So anytime that you're, it's torque versus speed. You can get it to where it's super, super strong, but it's going to be slow. And if you want it to speed up, then you're going to be losing your torque. Because remember, these motors have to be small. A half an inch diameter for the armature is really too big. You'd want something that's, 3/8, a quarter of an inch. Well, that amount of mass really isn't big enough to generate the amount of torque that you need. So then you're having to run it through, worm and sector, or, a superfine screw. And because of that gear reduction, now all of a sudden it's taken, a second, 2 seconds to close the fingers. And that's super frustrating. Even if it's, just a bunch of gear ratio, you want your, it's like this one, this one opens and closes as fast as my natural hand. And that's truly the speed that you would want it to. You don't want anything that, takes, seconds to open or close. You want it to be, as fast as your natural hand. I mean, that's just as simple as it gets. Why I want a metal hand? Because for my needs, there isn't anything commercially available that would suit my needs. So, that is durable enough, and so, I mean, I guess I don't understand the question. Metal's the right material because it's light enough and it's strong enough to, it's light enough and it's durable enough for what I do. Plastic isn't strong enough. So, I could paint it or Cerakote it. I mean, my next hand will be Cerakoted. I already talked to them about it. They're actually just 5 miles down the road from where my shop is. They've been wanting to do something for a couple of years. Yeah, well, I mean, I tried Dacron and I tried Kevlar, and the problem with both of those is, as soon as they get a nick or a fray or anything like that, they come apart. So really the chain, because this is miniature number 15 micro roller chain, that is the right material. Yeah, it is. I mean, there are some times that, it doesn't feel like you're going anywhere. But yeah, for the most part, it's been a good challenge. I just dropped another screw. Dang it. So what do you mean? Am I going to give away the design so that some other manufacturer can come in and shortcut me out of it? No. Am I going to allow people to buy these from me? Yes. I mean, you got to figure I have somewhere around 20,000 hours in this project so far, and I have made roughly zero money on 20,000 hours. So a patent is only as good as the dollars you have to protect it. If you aren't willing to write a 7-figure check to defend it, don't write a 6-figure check to patent it. And for those that don't understand that, there is no such thing as patent police. So say someone were to rip this off, okay, and start making them and selling them without being licensed by me, okay? So then I would have to go and track them down, and then I would have to sue them personally, and then I would have to take them to court, and but with all this, you're paying for all of this. I have to buy my attorney. I would have to, all of that. So you're going to have several thousand, hundreds of thousands of dollars in this, and then if you don't litigate, then you've just invalidated your patent because you didn't go and protect your intellectual property. And truthfully, I mean, the thing is, as soon as I sell one of these, anybody that wants to rip you off, they can reverse engineer this, and then start selling them, themselves. So rather than putting it together to use, as their device, say they aren't even an amputee, and they, sell me a story and they're like, oh yeah, I'm an amputee, I'm blah, 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 and I end up selling them a kit, they could just, a patent is only as good as the money you have to protect it. So after I would go spend, $80,000, $100,000. So think of Gary Fay. So Gary Fay, he was making those cosplay fingers, and he was the guy to get them, to get them from. And he sold some, and someone reverse engineered, and now you can get them on Temu. And, he had a patent on them in Australia. But since, Temu is out of Shenzhen, China, there is nothing he can do because he didn't patent it worldwide. And even if he would have patented it worldwide, you still have to find, someone still has to, abide by those patent laws. And China is very, very lax on, patent law and adhesion to, basically what's right on that type of thing. So, but the thing is, there's more to it than just, there's more to it than just the mechanics of it. The socket is more important than the fingers. Okay, but the thing is, think of how big Lego is as a company. Lego is huge, and they have all kinds of attorneys that defend their intellectual property and intellectual property rights, and they have teams of attorneys. I have to go get a flashlight to look for the bolt that I dropped. Actually, the bolt and the bearing that I dropped. I'll be right back. So I would imagine that with Lego, there's all kinds of lawsuits that are going on continuously. Because that they went and they patented their designs internationally. Oh, man. Huh. Well, shoot. I lost lost one of the bearings. I'll have to pull it out of something else. Oh, well. So back, where were we? Patent law. International patent law. Oh, it is. No, totally. Well, I mean, anything can be a hobby. Right? Hey, that happens. That's okay. Lego's pretty cool, too. There was a kid, I don't know, probably a decade ago that ended up doing that. He, I don't know, he did a couple articles. He was, transradial, so it was through his forearm. Ooh. I don't know, that is pretty tight. Pretty tight. Might have to take that apart and... Oh, yeah, no. If you go back, I don't know, probably 2 years ago, maybe a little longer, I made claws different fingertips that were claws. And it was pretty cool. I mean, they worked pretty good for digging. Digging in the dirt. Oh no, there's a video somewhere around. Yeah, so Gary Fay was one that was making the really long, creepy fingers. He's out of Australia or New Zealand. He's out of New Zealand. But that's how we got sidetracked onto the patent, and then China, and then to Lego. So now you're caught up with the chat. But I tell you, it just about killed him when he saw the knockoff stuff on Temu. Knockoff of his project. So it would be okay, so which one is my favorite? It would depend upon what you want to talk about. So, if you want to go by features, there is one that I did as a 6-pattern grip pattern selector. Oh yeah, no, I still have, well, we did lose one of the Siamese Mafia. He ended up having a tumor in his stomach, so he got to go to the great catnip pile in the sky, which sucked, but he was old. He was like 17, but still. But no, I still have mine. Well, I guess they're all mine, but I still have the one that's in all the videos. But so if you're going by features, there's one that I did of, it had 6 different grip patterns, and that one was pretty cool. Well, thanks. But if you want to go for simplicity, I like these fingers, these fingers themselves. I like the design of these fingers. It's really simple. They're really reliable. I've been using this style of finger for the last probably 2 years, 2.5 years. So that's really awesome. I'm not super pleased with the grip pattern selection mechanism. It's cool, but it's kind of gadgety. Like on the ones that I'm building for like Chris and Brandon and all that, I'm not doing grip pattern selection for them. And everybody just kind of decided they would prefer, reliability over the gadgety. So, that's just a thing. But it seems to be pretty well across the board. Everybody wants, reliability. All right, so let me put the top mounting rail on, and then the fingers are about back together. Weighs just about 1 kilogram. So, actually, let me tell you about it. Without the watch, it weighs just about 1 kilogram. Okay, so back to which one do I like the most? I like any of them that have the watch. I think the watch is just a super classy, kind of add-on. I don't really like the weight of the watch, because watches are actually kind of heavy. Um, it doesn't seem like it, I guess, but they do. They weigh. They weigh something. So I like. Oh, where is it? So I used to have a forearm cuff for this one, for this hand, that has. It's one of the Seiko 5 watches that's black and orange. And then the hand before this had the orange and black watch. And I like that one, but I don't like how the splay mechanism works on that hand. And, before you ask, hey, have you just ever thought of putting a knife or flashlight? Yes, I have, but the problem with that is, when you build that type of thing into your hand, now you're packing around that extra weight. So if like a knife and a flashlight and all of that, is a permanent part of your prosthetic, that's awesome and all, but that's an extra pound that you're always packing around. For something that you're not going to use. So for me to get it through insurance, I would have to pay about $3.5 million to get it licensed through the FDA and all of that junk. It's all about money. No. So, and I wouldn't use carbon fiber. So the only place that you could use carbon fiber, and I still wouldn't, would be in the socket. And the reason is because when you get through like the clear coat and all of that, then your skin is going to be directly touching the carbon fibers themselves. So then they're going to impregnate your skin. They're going to break off, they're going to rub, and they're going to stick into your skin. And then you'll get, dermal infections. And because it's carbon fiber, you can't get an x-ray. X-ray won't pick it up. So your surgeon or whoever can't remove the little bits of carbon fiber. That's the negative side of carbon fiber. If you're ever in a car accident, in a car that's all carbon fiber, they can't remove all of the crap that sticks in you. So this is all aluminum. So the fingers are SLS 3D printed from PCBWay out of magnesium silicon aluminum. So, and I've been really happy with the strength to weight ratio of the mag aluminum. In fact, before Christmas, I went and I had a bunch of stuff printed. I had basically enough parts for 10 hands printed. And it was a little over $5,000. And then I got hit with a $1,600 tariff to get it into the U.S., and that was before the Trump tariffs. If I were to have it done now, it would be even more. Because he just, implemented, more tariffs for completed manufactured goods. Which I get, but it sucks because, it's the consumer that ends up paying the tariff. Always is. Oh, that's awesome. Well, if you get somebody that is dysarticulation at the metacarpal level 1 through 4, and they are into this type of form, get a hold of me, because as a prosthetist, you have the magic wand that will make this a medical device. and you could certify it yourself in the clinic. Oh, I think you mean AutoCAD. So what I ended up doing was I switched to a software called Project CAD 24, and their software is, you buy it once and you only upgrade it when you want to. And it's like $500 for a perpetual license. Yeah, that's so. Did you end up using a naked prosthetics device, a PIP driver for that? Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's a tough world out there. Eek eek. Oh, hmm. So, Point Designs makes a really pretty. Their device is super pretty, but they aren't a PIP driver. The problem with PIP. So what about just doing them a white trash Nix finger, off of YouTube, and just 3D printing it? Because you could make one of those for a couple hours. Yeah, yeah. Um, but then are they looking for something that is articulating? That's really the trick of it. The problem with the PIP driver is it's so bulky to the adjacent fingers. And I mean, it has to be with that outer shell. Yeah, so if you were to look up on YouTube, Nick's finger, um, he has a couple different iterations of it, and it's all parametric. So I mean, it's a super easy thing to build. I've built some for some of my friends. One friend in particular. Right, because where he has the proximal, if you just use a silicone finger with a wire in it, you could pre-position it, and then it's just dink 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 with the proximal. May not need the gadgetry that they're thinking that they do. So I mean, if you look back at my videos for like anything Mark and Cindy, uh, I built him a set of guitar hands that he can play lap steel guitar, along with that set of golf hands that I made him. I don't know, probably like 3 years ago, and that's super awesome. That like totally changed his world. I was so happy to help him out with that. That was super cool. Oh, so dirty. So they were, well, see, he's actually a quad amputee. I don't know if you've seen the videos for it, but he got PID and sepsis, and he ended up losing his hands, his feet, part of his nose, part of his lower jaw. I mean, it was bad. Um, and I made him a thing that it would hold on to his golf club, and it would boop, boop, and it would, he could smack a ball. After about a half an hour of practice, he was able to hit the neighbor's building with a golf ball, which just amazing. Right. Well, now I got to take apart the winder, because the winder is pretty super gross. And I think I might need to make a new roller, because this one's getting kind of grooved up. So might need to make a new one of that. For what? For Nick's finger, or for the golf hands, is if you just look under golf hands, or Mark and Cindy, I think golf hands is, yeah, just Missing Parts Club, golf hands. I can go get my other phone and look for it real quick. Hold on a second. All right. I'm back. Okay. Okay, so hands-free golf. So if I'm able to use all of the, if I'm able to use the fingers that I do for like most of my builds, as long as I'm not building custom gear, it takes around, well, okay, so if I'm not making custom gear, and am I building the socket? So, I mean, in a socket I can do in like 2 days. It's like, so for all of these parts that I ordered from PCBWay, I'm actually trying to, do post-production on all of them so that I just have them just sitting. But, plan on it taking probably, I don't know, probably 100 hours, maybe 150, 200 hours. It all depends on what you're wanting for the device. And it depends on what level of DIY you're wanting to do. So I have built, so the amount of gear that has to go with making the fingers move. If you're just missing one finger, it's not worth having all of that gear in order to make one finger. So, you wouldn't do just one finger. But if you're missing two fingers, I've built gadgets for people that are missing two fingers. And then right now, well, not right now, but there's a guy in Texas that I'm building that he has his pinky, and that's it. He only has his pinky. So I am building gear for people with other configurations. I'm not super advertising it right now, but yes. So I've built for 2 and 3 and 4. But I wouldn't build for just 1. They aren't. They really aren't. And like for the PIP driver, those 2 rails, there's way too much flex. I mean, there's just way too much flex in those. I mean, it's a good idea, but the worst part, at one point in time, they were looking for people to trial one of their new devices, and I applied for it, and I was in the final running for it, and then they found out who I was. And then I was persona non grata. They wanted nothing to do with me after they figured out who I was. Because they were like, oh, you're going to reverse engineer it and, steal our design and all of this other. And I'm like, no, I am going to help you better your design. It's like, I am doing my own thing. I'm like, I am building my own. And unless you guys are directly copying what I'm doing, and what they ended up doing, they were copying Point Design's thing. So the first thing I do is, why don't you download that check socket off of Printables under Missing Parts Club and see if your hand actually fits that check socket. Because, I mean, if it does, we might be able to do something. I don't know. Yeah, so, Caboose, if you were to message missingpartsclub@gmail.com, that's my hand email, or the email that I pay attention to for hand stuff. So I do have one guy in Florida that's been trying to get me to build him a single finger for his pinky. And I'm like, dude, it's too much gear for one finger. But, so I guess when you say, yeah, no, it is. It is, and I would like to think that I'm part of the reason why it is, becoming a growing field like that. Because I know on YouTube, I pretty much own that section of YouTube. The partial hand. So we'll do this in acetone. See if that kind of cleans it up a little bit. I guess I'll acetone both of those. Yeah, I think, because of, the access to 3D printers and all of that stuff, I think there's going to be more attention to the partial hand stuff. Oh yeah, no, I mean, this is kind of this is my thing. I spend a lot of time designing, developing, iterating, trying to make this into a product. Ugh. Well, it's so regulated. You can't just be, a product design engineer for just prosthetics. Then it's, what section, what sub thing. And if you're going to go through insurance really doesn't pay for this type of thing. The amount that they want to pay is so little compared to the amount of effort that has to go into developing something like this. They don't want to pay hardly anything, which I get, but insurance is just such a racket anyways. Right, but, okay, so if you go all microprocessor and, high technology into this, then how durable is any of this? I mean, yeah. Oops. Ruh-roh. There it is. Lost my wrench. Oh yeah. No. Insurance is terrible for partial. I mean, think about it in my case. Okay, so my insurance, Regents Blue Cross Blue Shield, they told me that fingers are considered a luxury. And they denied my first requests and appeals for a prosthetic device because fingers aren't necessary for daily life. Now, what I thought was funny is, there was some secretary, adjuster, whoever, that has her fingers that was, hammering that out on her keyboard with her fingers, telling me that fingers are not necessary, that fingers are considered a luxury. Right, but for hands, there isn't the durability. there just isn't the durability for applications for hands. It's hands have 26 degrees of freedom. You're lucky to be able to regain, six of them. 6 of your degrees of freedom. And that's just tough. And then durability. It's like, the one that goes back that had that grip pattern selector that was on the side. That was such a cool device. But as far as the, durability, it wasn't there. It was really cool, as long as everything was, tuned up and maintained. But, as soon as, it got dirty or, whatever. Oh, what up, Brandon? We were talking about you earlier. So you ended up getting the grip lock fingers? So this is Brandon. He's going to be receiving a hand after Chris. Chris is the hand that I'm working on right now. But after that, I'll be working on Brandon's hand. So what's up with the grip lock? It just isn't, it isn't strong? Or did they put did your prosthetist put the fingers on in a planar fashion, or like what's going on with that? Oh man, that sucks. Is your clinician open to building you a new socket and moving things around? Or is it... But your Z-plasty ended up helping, right? I mean, your Z-plasty, you can now lay your hand flat, right? I mean, that helped. Yeah, Brandon's a tough case. He's... Man, that one sucks, dude. That sucks. That really sucks. I'll check my email under your thread, and I mean, is your clinician cool, or what's going on with it? I mean, are they listening to your issues? or not so much. Whoa! Really? That sucks. That super sucks, dude. I mean, the thing is, it's not like, oh, whatever. No. No, no, no. I mean, it's not like they weren't getting paid. It was workers' comp. So, I know we briefly talked about it, but uh, what about having point devices or point designs fingers put on that socket? Although, if your socket has that much space on it, I mean, that's wrong. I mean, you shouldn't have an inch of open space. I mean, that's not even cool. Ew. For real? Right. No, because it just doesn't work. I mean, the naked design just doesn't work. And I hate to say it like that, but it doesn't. It doesn't work. Um, Sorry, man. How do you feel about coming out to Oregon? Are you still not hip to coming to Oregon? Yeah, does your clinic actually do partial hands, or are they mostly, or do they specialize mostly in lower limb? I mean, that might be what you're running into, is that you have somebody that only does legs. That 99% of what they do is legs. I mean, maybe you just have I hate to say it, but maybe a bad clinician. I hope that you're taking notes on what I'm doing, Brandon, because you're going to have to do this occasionally. Hold on, hold on. Oh, yeah, but okay, so like my hanger rep. So I took my device to my local hanger guy, and he didn't even know what to think of it. He was like, "Yeah, it's cool. What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm trying to, see how that we could work together on this type of thing." And he's like, "Yeah, whatever." It was so frustrating. So, this is my first breakdown or major breakdown since what? When I go to the UK, like May, June of last year. So probably 8 months, 9 months. Which, I mean, I think's pretty good. I mean, I'm doing a lot of, dusty, dirty stuff. So, I think that 8, 9 months is pretty good for a major teardown. Yeah, it's the grinder stuff that actually causes more. It's the grit from grinding that causes most of the issues. I mean, it looks cool in the video, but And this next one, I'm going to have Cerakoted. I'm going to see if that helps with, if it helps with, how the dirt sticks to stuff. Let me see if I can get on the email and check out what you got going on. Brandon. I don't have pictures of your grip lock device. I have that you were talking to Joel at Open Bionics, but I don't have anything on your grip lock device. Oh, I take that back. March 22nd. Your thumb healed up nice. Your thumb healed up really nice. Why'd they cover it in like this leather stuff? No, see, your your fingers, your fingers on your socket should have been tipped back further. And what that would do is that's going to allow you, especially with your limited thumb motion, that would allow you to actually pick up larger diameter stuff. But as it looks on this, it looks like your fingers are pitched too far forward. And that, they just made it wrong. I mean, that's just bad fitting. I can't believe you're stuffing paper towel in the in the anterior of that. That looks that looks terrible. I mean, that just looks terrible. Dude. Yeah, that's just a bad socket, man. You need to. That's just a bad socket. Really? Dude, no way. I mean, okay, so I mean, you've seen how my socket fits. Okay, so this is, I mean, this is, the one off my daily driver, my current daily driver. And it doesn't fit really good today. I'm super fat today. Um, but, get everything in line. And I mean, I don't have any space to say. I mean, and this is the way your socket should fit. You shouldn't have any major gaposis right here. I mean, you just shouldn't. Yeah, I would ask your clinician, wait, because I imagine right now you're stuck with going through Hanger, and Hanger is the only, because of warranty and all of that junk. But I don't know, ask your Hanger guy if maybe there's someone in the local area that is more specialized in partial hand. I mean, I don't know how you're gonna, I don't know how you're really gonna address it without, killing somebody's ego, but that's a terrible fit, dude. I mean, that isn't even, that's like, thanks for trying, and right, because the thing is, like what you said, 99% of what you're doing is going to be lower limb, because, a lower limb amputee, they need, a prosthetic device to get around. If they're choosing to wear a device, they need a device to get around. A partial hand, as much as I would argue against it, isn't really a necessity. You can survive like this. Yeah, it sucks. It's inconvenient as hell. But you can survive that way. So, the whole, not everybody is going to be, have the experience with partial hand. And it's terrible to say it that way, but it really is. I would just call around and see if within your network or your, let me see how many hangers you have around you. Oh, you only have the one in that area, don't you? Let me hold on a second. Well, just because they've had multiple, hand patients in the clinic doesn't mean they you know, did them good. Do you want to tell Caboose where you're at, Brandon? I don't want to dox you. There you go. I was going to say they make lots of movies and they have lots of peaches there. Ugh. Oh, yes. Lots of pollen. Piles of tree jizz. so much tree jizz. Oh, I'm working on that stuff from the grant. Trying to get parts and stuff put together for the people I'm building devices for. Right? Isn't that terrible? That's actually disappointing. I mean, honestly, that is so disappointing. Have you started your new position at your place? Or are you back to work yet, or no? Oh, honestly, I mean, don't get me wrong. I like Joel. I am not sure that you're going to be super pleased with the Hero Gauntlet. It is okay. When I saw it when I was back there, um, it was super flexy. There is not a whole pile of rigidity with it, and the end points for where the fingers close are totally in the wrong spot. I mean, like, totally in the wrong spot. And I talked to Joel about that quite a bit. So I don't know what he's done to fix that, or if he did fix it, or whatever. But when are you supposed to get it? Did you end up ordering one? Oh. Did you tell Joel that I'm making you a gadget too? Oh, that's funny. Well, oh, well, I mean, it wouldn't matter anyways, but it would be kind of funny. Well, this seems to be close. What? So they weren't hip to building you a socket for my gear, right? They still aren't hip to that. That sucks. That really sucks. Oh, is my internet dying? Let me know if my internet's dying and I'll call it quits. Oh, okay. Well, I'm not exactly in the best place for internet, I've been told several times. So, I try to stay mindful of that. Alright, so we're putting it back together now. I hope I can remember how it goes. Right now I'm just cleaning and putting my hand together. I actually haven't cleaned it in probably like 6-8 months. I have not been working on any BattleBot crap for nothing. Okay. So that's together. Oh. How does the rest of it go together? Yeah, I'm not with that group all the time with him. They're all in middle Southern California. I only went to that one BattleBots thing with him to be his on-site engineer. Because he didn't have anybody to fix his robot. Thanks. There's definitely a certain look to my devices. They all kind of have that same you know, steampunky look to them. So if you haven't noticed, I haven't been doing videos lately. I did Super Bowl this year. Did a lot of work on Super Bowl this year. It was good because that's gonna fund the project for probably most of the year. And then I ended up getting sick. I ended up getting a couple rounds of pneumonia, and then a round of bronchitis, and then some oxygen, and you know that part sucked. But I'm better now, so can't really complain. I mean, I can, but nobody cares. All right, so we have a long one and a short one that goes here. Long one and a short one. It is all functional. It is. I make sure that everything is at least doing one thing, preferably two things in the design. Okay. All right. Well, let's get... See, the neat thing about this device, or this design for the device, is, you know, I can have a fully functional device without a socket in place. You know, it's like the socket isn't integral to the device. You know, the socket just takes up the space that isn't the device. You know, and that is so different from any of the other things, you know, that are on the market. You know, everything else that's out there, you know, the socket is, you know, is a major part of the prosthetic. Whereas on mine, you know, you don't, you know, the socket is the last thing that you put together in on this. You know, you put everything else together before you put the socket in. Long screw. Yeah. You know, and that's just tough. I mean, it's, you know, because I mean, Well, that might be the deal for you. I mean, if he's somebody that really is, you know, an upper limb specialist, I mean, that might be the deal. I mean, the thing is, you know, if the socket doesn't fit, you aren't going to wear it as a device. And then it's a waste of the resources. It's a waste of your workers' comp money. You know, I mean, it just makes no sense. I mean, if it really doesn't fit, and it doesn't look like it fits for nothing, honestly. You know, I would reach out to him and see if he's open to, you know, redoing one of his fellow hanger guys' work. Oh, stuck. All right. So let's get this back together. Okay, and a tiny screw. Little tiny screw. Yeah, I met him at the UK thing. When I did Maker Central in Birmingham, UK last year. I met him. He came, I think he came to my talk too. I don't know, seems like a pretty okay guy. I don't think I was quite what he was expecting, but you know, whatever. You know, he didn't hang around and talk to me much, which, I don't know. I would have liked to talk to him for a while. Awesome, I appreciate that. So how have you been? Yeah, it's been probably, what, 4 months since we've talked? Yeah, still a little draggy. Still a little bit draggy. Is that Mr. Shoreland right there? I'm using silicone. I'm using industrial silicone. I don't know. I mean, it feels like it's fine, but meh. Oh, I was going to use the new splay drivers. Ooh, brand new mag aluminum. Yeah, I don't know. You know, I'm hoping that when I have Cerakote do the next hand, that they're going to end up doing microslick on a portion of it. And I'm thinking that's going to really help with some of the friction. And then also the whole thing with how dirt, or if dirt, actually sticks to it. You know, they claim that it's supposed to stay cleaner because of the microslick. You know, that it doesn't allow things to actually stick. So I'm not using gears anymore. Yeah, I was having issues with the gears, but that was several designs ago. Now it's all links and levers. Yep. Yeah, and they've been wanting to do a thing with me for quite a while, so I'm hoping that, you know, it actually is a thing. I had a friend that was a CFO there, and a million years ago, I built a less than serialized firearm, and they totally fucked it up for me. So I'm hoping that that their process has been figured out better. No, there won't be Zerk fittings in any of this. First off, I'm not packing around extra Zerk fitting weight. There we go. That would be awesome. That would be awesome if you would be able to take your Magic Prosthetist Clinician wand, and bless one of my devices and make it clinical. And you are a medical device. And you are a medical device. That would be awesome. Sweet. All right, almost back together. I need a big pulley and a little pulley. It would be. Well, what you're really wanting, you're wanting a printer to be able to do mag aluminum. Stainless is cool and it's super strong, but it weighs too much for it being a prosthetic device. So if you could get a setup that was, able to do mag aluminum, that would be awesome. There we are. I think, you don't remember if it's, I don't remember which way this thing goes, if it's up or down. I would love to. I don't know. The guy that's running Maker Central, he reached out to me to see if I was interested in coming to, this year's Maker Central. But when I asked him, well, do you have any money to offset my travel expenses? He kind of told me to fuck off. So, while I would love to do it, it was expensive last year. And he's like, well, you need to work harder at getting sponsorships to, come to our show. And I'm like, none of my normal people are coming to your show. If it was big enough that Creality was going to come, then absolutely I would go with Creality. But, their show wasn't big enough for, I tried for several months to get my rep from Creality to be interested, and she was like, it's not really a show. And I'm like, it is too. They keep telling me it's a show. They're like, the attendance isn't enough. And I'm like, okay, so that's a no? You aren't going? And she's like, no, we aren't going. Yeah, I saw that the guys that were doing that at Open Sauce last year, they actually got bought out. Which, awesome for them. And, good for them for getting bought out. But, that sucks for the consumer, that they aren't going to be able to get something that is, consumer grade powder metal. Yeah. All right, got to put the winder back together next. All right, looking for A shortened 3/8 button head. Maybe it's this one. Maybe it's not. All right. So that is pretty close. Boop, boop. Okay, now I need a bearing to go in the bottom. Okay. Need a big pulley. Should probably put some grease on this. Yeah, I don't know. Resin I'm kind of plus or minus on. I mean, I started when my first resin printer was a Peoply Moai, and I was super pleased with it. And now I have an Elegoo 16K and Elegoo, whatever the other, I think an Elegoo 8K, and then I have a Creality, and yeah, I don't know. Resin has its place. I mean, for making miniatures, resin is awesome. But for making prosthetic devices, not as awesome. You know, everything works great for just a little bit, and then everything gets brittle. Let's see. Huh. That needs to spread apart a little bit more. Yeah, the problem with the FDM is the microplastics. So I ordered a bunch of parts from PCBWay to make a bunch of hands. That's been my, big thing. And then I redesigned how the splay mechanism worked. That was pretty big. Let's see. So we're like this. Like this. We're like this. And then we're like this. Or are we... I think we're like this. If not, I'll have to take it back apart because it will be upside down. Oh, so is anybody in the Denver area? Is anybody in the chat in the Denver area? Awesome, Algeria. I don't know. I don't super worry about the FDM stuff. I figure I have other things that are going to kill me before the FDM microplastics in the air get me. All right. So, winder is back together. Now I've got to put the long bolt and the short bolt in. There's the long bolt and the short bolt. Oh, that's awesome. Because I already have terminal cancer, so I'm not super concerned about little bits of plastic going to get me. Ha ha ha. You know, and I think of all of the micro metal dust that's in my machine shop. You know, if I was going to be super concerned about microplastic, I would be concerned about, you know, micro metal and asbestos and all of that first. All right. So, let's lace the fingers. See if I remember how to lace the fingers. Okay. Boop-a-doo. And then this goes around here. I know this isn't helping you guys at all. And this goes around here. And through there. And then around there. Boop-a-doo. That's okay. I appreciate you watching my videos anyways. Alright, so that needs to come here, and then that goes to about there. And then that needs to be on the other side. Okay, and the top comes off, and let's see. I think it goes like that. It's been so long since I've had it apart that it's kind of like, huh, how do you put it back together? and get the grip pattern selector to work and all that junk. Okay, that must be the way it goes. I mean, it looks about right. I lost my fingers because of bone infection, blood infection, septicemia, gangrene. You're going to die after an autologous stem cell transplant from multiple myeloma. I was within my 100 days after stem cell, and I broke my fingers because of low bone density. Because I have terminal blood cancer. Right? Totally. Actually, on this next set, I'm going to use my new fiber laser, and I'm going to mark all the parts so that I don't have to guess anymore. All right. Well, that looks about right. It still looks off a little bit. Yeah, it looks off just a little bit. Yep, multiple myeloma is kind of a suck cancer. Actually, it's not kind of a suck cancer. It is a super suck cancer. I could. I don't know how well it would get viewed. I mean, lately my video views have been like so way down. I mean, I can make a video on whatever you guys want, but you know, only if you guys promise to watch it. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I think I'm going to switch sides of these. I'm going to put the long one on the index middle. And put the short one on the ring pinky. So, long one goes over here. Boop-a-doo. And then we'll run the tap down through it. Actually, I'm going to tap it from the other side. Yes. So, since this is my third treatment that will have failed for the multiple myeloma, I should be a candidate for CAR T therapy, and I will be going to Seattle Cancer Centers of America up in Seattle, Washington, where they will kill me and hopefully raise me from the dead. Because CAR-T is magical. You need more than a virgin and a chicken. You maybe need like 2 virgins and chickens. Ooh, tight, tight. Oh, what happened there? Yeah, when I did the first round of... So when I did VDT Pace at UAMS in Arkansas, they were just starting to do... they were just starting to do CAR-T for multiple myeloma. And, they were still killing people pretty rapidly with it. But now, I mean, their new formulation is supposed to be pretty awesome. You're supposed to get probably 10 years out of it, 15 years out of it. Which is awesome. I mean, the real awesome thing is this year, May 4th, that is my stem cell birthday. I will have gotten 7 years. Is it 7? 6 years. No, okay. So 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. I will have gotten 7 years out of my stem cell transplant, which honestly is amazing. I mean, when I first went in, they gave me 6 months. You have got 6 months to figure your shit out. And, it was pretty grim there for a second. And, that was a tough year. 18 was a tough year. 17 was a tough year, too. But 18 was, like, really tough. But... getting that long out of something like that, that's honestly, it's amazing. And the thing is, at the beginning, I was a guinea pig, so I'm on DDR for my maintenance. And, because I have to do maintenance chemo once a month. It's 9 hours, 9-hour infusion once a month. And it sucks, but, that's what keeps me alive. So if I can get, another 7 out of CAR-T, how awesome is that? So, I mean, that would be awesome. Yeah, I build my own tools all the time. I built my own CNC plasma cutter. I built my own milling machine. I built a lot of my own stuff. All right. So clevis is installed. So let's see. So the debate is still open if the grip pattern selector sprocket is upside down. Because it might still be upside down. Okay, that's lined up. Stick the pin in, and we'll see what we got. All right, pin's in. I think the sprocket's upside down. No, maybe not. Yeah, pin's upside down. Well, yeah, it's upside down. Or it's just not in the right spot. All right. What time is it? 5:12. It is that magical time. I'm out of water. I'll be right back. All right. And I'm back. Yep, 5 o'clock meds and animal cookies. So I was actually late on my meds. So, oh well. Well, what are you working on, Neon? I mean, you gotta be working on something cool. Oh, come on. Get in there. Yeah. And how is the progress going? What are you using as your program for fluid simulation? I mean, are you using FEA from Autodesk for fluid sim? All right. So now that that's in the right spot, maybe we'll see if it's still wrong. Okay. Yeah, that is not in the right spot. We got to pull that. We got to pull that. Oh, you're using the Blender add-on? How do you like that? I don't know. I screwed around with it for a little while. And I don't know. I mean, Blender's cool. It's just you end up so much time and dedication in order to get all your shortcuts, and I mean, it's a super powerful program. But I don't know. I'm probably just jealous because I'm not super fluid at it. All right. So we need that to be in that position. Next time I put this together, I am totally going to mark all the parts with the fiber laser, so I don't have to do this anymore. I'm going to mark a hash mark on the sprocket, on the chain, everything. Everything gets a hash mark. Because this is a pain in the butt. Have you tried Fluid Sim with generative AI? Running it through like Dolly or something? Yep. So, that looks a lot better. Huh. I wonder if I should go... Huh. What do you think it'd really take to... Okay, I'm going to put the hand all together, and then I'm going to pull the top cap off, and then I'm going to go and fiber mark it. Mark it with a fiber laser. Just so I don't have to do it anymore. Oh, okay. Where are you hoping to get with it in the end? What's your end iteration look like? Right? Then, then I'll just, of course, it'd be my luck. I'm going to set the frequency wrong. I'm going to weld the chain. That's how it's going to work for me. Okay. Okay. I know I don't have the socket in. Oh, look at that. That isn't even like mostly draggy. Although the pinky isn't super awesome. Oh, but the splay is a lot less draggy. All right, let's... Not that bolt. That could be that one. Oh, it needed 3 hours worth of TLC. That's how long I have been dinking with this thing on this live, is 3 hours. So, I guess that's how long it takes to rebuild this. 3 hours. All right, let's put the socket back in. Boop. And then I still have to print a new one of these. I broke it the other day. And the thing is, it's loaded on one of the printers. I just have to find it. Which sucks, because you're like, okay, the perfect one is on one of these printers. Which printer is it on? No, you don't. You should be plenty happy with your fleshy fingers. So I carved up a quarter the other day on my fancy laser. That was pretty cool. Oh, I can't find my little plastic piece. Whoopsie. Dang it. I mean, I know what it looks like, but dang it. So, okay, so a million years ago, I was working on the proprioception part of it, and I tried, electrostimulation by frequency and voltage. I also tried vibration with the little cell phone motors, or cell phone vibrator motors. And I didn't get enough differentiation for it to really matter. It's like I get just as much proprioception out of the contact and pressure on my residual limb, being here, the back of the hand, and then right here where the socket ends. I get more proprioception out of that than I did with the motors, the electrostimulation, anything. So I kind of gave up on that project because, like with the electrostimulation, it ended up being more problematic than beneficial. Um, it was just terrible. Um, okay, I'm gonna quick check on the Q1 and see if it's on that printer, and if not, it might be on the K1. Hold on. Hold on. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to pull all of the thumb drives out of the machines, and hopefully I can find... Oh, this is the piece. That is the magical piece that I need to find. I do think I'm going to move the ultrasonic machine with my concoction of diesel and stuff in it out of here. It's giving me a headache. All right. Hand it back. All right. I do use Clipper. In fact, well, most of my machines are Clipper machines. Of course, I'm super old school. I even have a machine that still runs Sailfish. That's like super old school. as in not marlin, but sailfish. Yep. So I still have one of the first cupcakes, MakerBot cupcakes, and I have one of the first MakerBot wood replicators, back before MakerBot went evil. Oh my gosh. So sailfish was after, it was a fork of marlin, but it was after marlin was like the thing. I don't know. It worked so good on that printer. No, wasn't Creality. It was 3D Systems. Oh, it might be on this one. Okay, it might be. It might be on the Q1. No, hardly. 3D Systems is that is a terrible conglomerate. All they want to do is swallow people up. Well, this is less than ideal. My Cheaty Tech Q1 is losing its mind a little bit, it looks like. So I'm going to try the old power cycle and see if that helps it. Boop. All right. Maybe it's been on for too long. It couldn't find it. Actually, I think I'm going to take the thumb drive out and maybe simplify the directory a little bit. Sometimes it has issues if the directory is too, I guess, full. So we will see what we can do. But I'm sure that it is the RP lock. Okay, we're going to get rid of Miriam. Get rid of that. Going to get rid of Rotary Rig. Okay. I'll close that out nicely. We'll see what this actually looks like now. Did my stream dive? You guys just aren't telling me my stream died? All right. People's just quit. Don't get it. Okay. Ring and pinky lock fork. That looks almost like the right one. That one looks pretty close. We're going to go with that one. So there's 3 choices. So I'm probably going to be printing all 3 of them, honestly. I don't know. You know, the other day I printed something on my Bamboo X1C, and it's the first time I've printed anything on it in like quite a while. Because, you know, once they started screwing with, locking down the firmware and all that, I tell you, it really took all of the smoke out of that machine for me. You know, for partial hand, there really wasn't anything that was viable for like an industrial application. You know, I ended up getting an iDigits Quantum. Yeah, iDigits Quantum, and it was a terrible device. It was the most frustrating things about it was slow. It took a little over 1 second to go from open to closed. You know, and it's brrr. And it was so frustrating to use. And I mean, I broke it within the first. God, it wasn't even a week of owning it, and I broke I think it was the index finger. And what you have to understand is, you know, your local clinician can't fix that device for you. They can't even work on it. They have to. So I'm in Oregon, Pacific Northwest, you have to send it back to Dublin, Ohio. But you can't send it back to Dublin, Ohio. Your clinician has to send it back to Dublin, Ohio. So you make an appointment with your clinician. He sends it back there. They fix it. They send it back to him, and then he makes an appointment with you, to get it back to you. So when you break your device, you're without your gear for, 2-3 weeks, and if that's your only hand, if that's your only device, you go from being the coolest kid on the block to, oh, that poor cripple over there. And nobody likes that. And that was a terrible experience, So, but, I mean, to your question, I mean, there really wasn't anything that was viable for what I do. Oh, yeah, no, I mean, it's all insurance. I mean, it's 100% insurance. I mean, it's no different than, if, okay, were you here when I was talking to Brandon? I can't remember if you were in here when Brandon was on. Okay, so this kid Brandon last year ended up losing about to right there. And, they ended up doing a flap. And, I mean, he did an awful good job of cutting his hand up. So, I've been talking to him for a minute or two. And, he's going to be one of the guys that I build a device for. And there's another guy, Chris, that if you've been watching the videos, Chris actually came to the shop back in December. And it was super awesome to actually meet him. And, I mean, while he was here, I took my scanner and I scanned his residual limb, and, this is Chris's hand. So it gives me a working model to base everything off of, which is awesome. Sorry, lost the pin. And I need the pin. Oh, there it is. There it is. So, if I were to directly make them devices, both Brandon or Chris, I can get in a pile of trouble. I mean, like federal prison time trouble. And that's why all of my device is all, quote, DIY. And, it sucks to have to do it that way, but it's the only way that I can cleanly do it and not get in trouble. And, that's not to say that, Chris might come out here for a week and I might hold a how to fiberglass class, and I might teach him how to cast his residual limb, and go about it that way. But I definitely won't be exclusively building him a prosthetic device, because that would be illegal. So, but I'll probably do a fiberglass course. It's FDA. It's medical malpractice, actually, because I would be manufacturing a medical device without proper licensure or clinic. So that will get you, it's $100,000 fine per occurrence and 10 years in federal prison. Ha, yeah, exactly. Just friends giving a helping hand to friends. Yeah, so he'll probably, I don't know what his schedule is, but probably around May, maybe June. So if a licensed clinician, so here's how screwed up it is. So I can't actually advertise that I'm making these devices. I can do it on YouTube as a, hey, look what I'm doing for me. But if I were to go, hey, I'm building these devices for anybody that shows up at my place, I would get in like serious trouble. So, but if your clinician that you work with, say your clinician calls me up and says, hey, I'd like you to build my client one of your devices. I can totally do that because, they have the magic clinician pen that says, this is a medical device. So cosplay doesn't work because it's for its intended use. I already ran that by my attorney. And he said, nice try. And I went, really? And he said, yep. You will go to jail. I said, I don't want to go to jail. He said, then don't sell them as cosplay. I said, I will not sell them as cosplay. He said, good, because I would not represent you, because that would be a losing battle. I was like, okay, got it. Oh, it is. So if I wanted to sell these out in the wild, I would either have to become a licensed prosthetist and open a clinic, which is going to cost me several $1 million. Remember, I still have terminal cancer, so probably not going to do that. Or I have to partner with a clinician. Well, the clinician that I was going to partner with on this type of thing, he went off and he sold his business and retired. Dang it. So probably not going to do that anymore. It is much smoother. It is like so much smoother than it was. Pinky's still a little bit draggy though. Pinky is a little draggy. Oh, it is. But I get it. If I was a snake oil salesman and, I wasn't, if I wasn't who I am, and I was out there taking advantage of people, hey, I can build you this gadget and I'm going to charge you, $30,000 for this gadget, and then I don't deliver it. I mean, that'd be like super crappy. But I mean, people do that all the time. Yeah. But the thing is, and I mean, I get it, but I don't know. It seems like so much overreach, honestly. Because it's all about the money. I mean, there's nobody else that is trying to fill this void. I mean, there is literally no other company that is trying to fill this void. So, you would figure that it would be a no harm, no foul situation, but yeah, that's tight. Tight. I don't know. It just sucks. I'm trying. Chris from Point Designs, he's been using my story example, my whatever this is, to kind of show the FDA that it needs, that the whole system needs some revamping because there are these voids. Yeah, and I mean, what do you do? Ooh, that is stuck. We need to let this cool down some because it is not coming off the build plate at all. Well, so the thing is, there isn't enough ROI. There isn't enough ROI in this device, return on investment, for someone besides someone like me to be doing this. Because, okay, if that's still too hot, that's still way too stuck. So, for me to get this to market, well, it's too small of a piece. I mean, it's literally smaller than a quarter. I mean, it's about the size of a nickel, honestly. But so there isn't enough return on investment for it to be worth the OSERs, the B-Bionics, the Arm Dynamics to go and patent this and get it through the FDA and all of that junk, in order to bring it to market. I mean, look at all the issues that I've had just trying to find enough participants to build essentially, free, no cost, low cost devices for, because really, I'm not charging Chris for his, I'm not charging Brandon for his device. When I went to and gave the talk in Birmingham, UK, I got invited to apply for a grant. And I got a bunch of presentations, bunch of papers, blah, blah, blah. Ended up getting awarded a grant for, well, originally it was supposed to be for $100,000. And grants aren't generally taxed as income. But this grant is taxed as income, so my $100,000 became $70,000, which sucks. But it's what it is. So, you know, what I'm going to do with that grant money is I'm going to build devices for people to make sure that that the DIY thing is a viable way to get the device out, and that this device is actually viable, for anybody but me, that it isn't a piece of crap. So, I mean, it's like, I think the device is awesome, but, I also designed it, so, I'm probably biased to it. But if I can build these devices for people and then, bring it to kind of market. I mean, for the people that are outside the U.S., I'm still figuring that out. It's like I have a guy that's in Edmonton, Alberta, and I'm figuring out what I'm going to do with him. He lost his hand to frostbite a couple years ago, and I've been working on him to. So a 503 or so a 503C. I couldn't become a 503C. So, I already looked at that. What I ended up doing is taking one of my businesses and turning it into a corporation, and then I am selling parts to the corporation, and then the corporation is being the veil and shield to where I don't go to jail. And, it just kind of back and forth, back and forth. My accountant is awesome, and she is taking care of it. But, it's a lot of crap that I have to go through in order to do this. Yes, and that's essentially what I'm doing, is proving the market, because once I get, say, like a dozen of these devices out, and then I have real world testimony from all the users that I build these. So an LLC wouldn't give you enough protection. So I did it as a C Corp, because it gives you different protections and different tax advantages. So oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I mean, sometimes I do get a little down about it, because it feels like I'm paddling the boat uphill, always. I'm going to print another one of these just to be safe. But I need the build plate. So anyways, yeah, but a C Corp was better for the taxes. You got to remember, I'm in Oregon, and we have some really fucked up tax laws here. And we didn't even get to vote for them. So that's what one of my businesses is. I'm an ABN sole proprietor for one of my businesses. And then my other business, I am no sales tax, but yeah, we got property tax. So like the property tax on the shop is a little over $2,000 a year. I mean, it feels like all my property is a little over $2,000 a year. And that blows. You know, and it just feels like it's uphill all the time. And I don't know. It's okay. I mean, it's okay. But, you know, it'll be awesome once I get, you know, a couple of these things out. Like once I get Chris wearing one of these, and once I get Brandon wearing one, I think I'll feel different about the whole thing. You know, because right now, I mean, it just feels like I've been talking about it and talking about it and talking about it, and it doesn't feel like I've been actually, you know, doing anything on it, even though I have. But you know, the thing is, it's only me. You know, it's like when I do the YouTube videos, you know, I write the scripts, I shoot it, I edit it, you know, I produce it, you know, it's me, which kind of blows. Yeah, but you see, then you have to have somebody to sell it to. You know, you have to have the OSERs, the Arm Dynamics, the B-Bionics, the, you know, the them to want to do your thing. Are those the parts? Okay, that's them. Okay. While I'm waiting for parts to go, I'm gonna tap some more of those. Not of those. Of these. So earlier I was making the mated pairs for the wiffle tree and sliders. Right? Oh my god. I tried to get my kid to be interested in coming down and working at the shop, and not as interested as I would hope. You know, the shop is loud and dirty and no fun. So that sucks. Well, that's kind of what OSV is doing. You know, you got to figure if I hadn't got that grant from OSV, you know, truthfully, I would still, you know, I would be still just relying on Patreon. You know, I would have to be funding Chris's build out of Patreon. You know, whereas right now, you know, I fund my, you know, like the little build I did for Alex. You know, I mean, you wouldn't think that would be much of anything, you know, because, I mean, it was, you know, a clamp and, you know, some machine parts. But, you know, I mean, I had $500 in that little thing. You know, and I don't know, it's different. Yeah, but, you know, I mean, getting the grants and, you know, I mean, like, for OSV, I am super thankful that I was awarded that. Because, you know, that is what's, you know, helping this all along. You know, and giving it more speed. Because, you know, you got to figure, like with the parts that I ordered, the parts I showed you earlier, I mean, you know, with tariff, you know, I mean, that's what, $6,600 worth of parts, you know, if you include tariff, which you have to. But, you know, that'd be $6,600 that I would have to come up with. Whereas on this, you know, that's just $6,600 that I'm spending out of my OSV money. You know, because really, this is just about spending money. I'm not, you know, YouTube does not pay me a bunch. You know, YouTube buys me lunch is what YouTube does nowadays. You know, I used to make money on YouTube, but their new pay schedule is less than awesome. You know, and really, that's why you're seeing a lot of creators quit now, is because, I mean, like, for instance, so, you know, a 3 to 5 minute video ends up taking, you know, about 16 hours to write, to shoot, to edit, to produce. Well, in that same, you know, and you may get, say, 100,000 views. Well, I get $9, I think $9.60 per 1,000 views. Oh, yeah. No, totally. So, but I get $9.60 per 1,000 views. And then I split that with Google by 40%. So then that turns into $5 per 1,000. Well, if I make 100,000, you know, so then I make, you know, $500. I'm on TikTok. I'm on TikTok. And I'm on the Creator Fund on TikTok too. Just TikTok is kind of a black hole. You know, and what I found is you have to create content that is, you know, strictly TikTok content. You know, you can't just chop up your YouTube content and put it on, or I should say, every time I've done that, you know, anytime I've done that, so point of my invention is to enable amputees, partial hand amputees, with a much better solution and device than what's available in the marketplace currently. Because what's available in the marketplace now sucks. And it was designed and manufactured by people that are not amputees. And that's kind of what it is. Because this is an awesome device. And what is available sucks. Who wants to buy what? Right? Yeah, lobster claw pinchers. Pinky's still a little bit draggy. Oh. I think the little spring clip has broken in my pinky. And that is why it's draggy. Because the little spring clip has finally broke. Wah wah. Yep. But that's a good thing that I had some printed. Yep. Okay, so 31 people want my device. And then so what happens after I have? Yeah. No, I make a, so like this winter, why I haven't been making YouTube videos is because I needed to make some real money. So I ended up doing interior stadium project managing for the Super Bowl. Because that's what I used to do during the winters before I got sick, was interior stadium project managing. So, sadly, I am down one cat. We had to put Luke down, which sucked. But, I mean, he was, he was 16, and, when cats get to be that old, then cancer kind of gets him. Oh, no, I have a business plan. How does someone do what? I liked Breaking Bad until about season 3. And then it kind of jumped the shark for me. Oh, so I have a friend that's been doing it forever and ever. And back in 2008 or 7, it was 2007 or 8, somewhere around there. And he needed someone to go and, help him out. And, it's truly, you got to know a guy that knows a guy. And that's how I got into it. And I went as basically, his fabricator that year. And that lasted for about a week. And then all of a sudden it was, hey, can you go and take care of the 400 level of, the stadium? And I'm like, sure. And then, I ran that part of the project for that year. And then I got invited to come back and, do it again. And then it just kind of became my winter gig. And then, oh, look at that. That is so much better. Look at that. Okay, so what is the point of my invention? There is no other device, partial hand prosthetic device, that moves that fast. There's no other device that moves that fast. And that is the point of my device. I've done props. I did a bunch of stuff for Warner Brothers, for Batman Returns. What else? I've done a bunch of stuff. I do a lot of Burning Man stuff. Out in Black Rock Desert. I do a bunch of the one that's at Edwards Air Force Base. Um, it's well, you got to figure I'm old too. I mean, so I've done a couple Olympics. I built the bobsled that was above the bar in Olympic Village, um, in the China Olympics. I also did a thing for AT&T at their on location, and I also did a thing for Nike there. Also did Olympic time trials set up in Eugene. Right on. Well, it was great talking to you, Neon Nomad. I hope that you catch my next live or whatever. Oh no, absolutely. If as soon as I sell one of these out to anybody, but I mean that's the danger with anything like this. You know, someone else can copy it. Just, you buy anything and you can copy it. You know, that's how that's how it works. But and absolutely, there is no competitive edge to that. They could reverse engineer it, and but then they're going to be accepting all of the liability and trying to build the market sector just the same as I'm trying to build the market sector. No, so a patent is only as good as the dollars you have to protect it. And if you don't protect it, then you invalidate your patent. So if say you go and you spend $100,000 to patent your device, which that's about what it would cost, about $100,000, then you would, if someone goes and copies it and sells it, then you have to sue them. And if you don't, then you're invalidating your patent claim. So that means, you're going to go spend $50,000 at least for a suit. And then if you win the suit on merit, then you get a percentage of their profits. It's not like you get, say they're selling each one of your things for, say, $30,000, and they sell 10 of them. That doesn't mean that you're getting 300,000. That means you get a percentage of their profit from selling those devices. So, but I mean, if you don't go after them, then you're saying that your patent is worthless. So patent law is really kind of a twisted thing now. I mean, it used to actually have merit and it was worth something, but nowadays it really isn't. Unless you're part of some, big conglomeration, or you have all kinds of money. Oh no, totally. But let's see. Okay, so say for instance, I think I want to get in the tabletop laser business. Okay, and I buy a Creality Falcon 2. Okay, so there is nothing that can keep me from reverse engineering and copying those and duping those. I can go make 1,000 of them, sell them on Temu, whatever, and recoup my money. And if Creality sees that, then they have by having a patent, as long as it's an international patent because they're in China, then they would have the right to sue me. But there's no patent police that is automatically going to sue you. I mean, it's like these machine skates. Okay, so I bought those from whoever. Okay, so I could go and reverse engineer those and start selling them off of their design. There's nothing that actually stops you from being able to do that. But if they were to come after me and sue me and all of that, then I could be in trouble, but it would only be for a percentage of the profit. It's not the whole cost of business, it's the profit. Well, any good accountant can show that you're operating in loss, perpetually. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't make any profit at all making your 1,000 devices. The issue with this device, the real issue with this device is it is for such a limited market, a limited and specific market, that because of legislation, and the whole insurance, I'm assuming you're within the US, I might be wrong, but because insurance is involved and medical malpractice and all of that, what really keeps anybody from going in and stealing my idea is that there isn't enough ROI in it for them to do that. So in order for me to be able to bring this to market within clinic, it would cost me, right around $3 million US. And that is just the cost to make it to where it's available within clinic. So say I wanted to, only bring it to market within the EU. Okay, so then I would have to go, and apply for a device within, the NIH and all of that junk. And then I would have to get it certified within your country. And then it would have to be, approved by your healthcare and insurance programs. And then ultimately, the customer has to choose your device over anything else. No, but if you were going to play the insurance game, you have to have it patented. If you were going to, put the $3 million into it in order to, bring it into clinic, you would have to have it patented. So it's beyond safety and warnings. There's a bunch of legislative bullshit that goes along with it. It's complete government bureaucracy. I mean, honestly, just the fact that I can be sentenced to 10 years in federal prison because I build someone a partial hand prosthetic device is honestly ludicrous. But if I advertise that I'm building these for people outside of clinic, I can go to jail, which is beyond stupid, but it's what it is. And ultimately, my market plan for this is to first prove that there is a market demand. Second, show that it is a viable device. Third, get somebody like Hanger, Arm Dynamics, Be Bionic to be interested in partnering or, giving me a license to manufacture underneath their umbrella. And then, 4, ultimately, partner with them and manufacture the device. Because they already have the infrastructure for insurance clearing codes, because they're already in bed with all of the insurance companies. They're already hooked up with Medicare, Medicaid, all of the insurance. That's ultimately what it is. I prove that there's a viable market for it and get somebody else to do the legal portion of it. And that is the business plan. To partner with OSER, Arm Dynamics, Be Bionic, because those are your big 3 in the US that are into this type of thing. That needs to be a little bit up. Or that's the ultimate. No. I am going to have it Cerakoted. Black, orange, and gray, though. So hold on. All right. Hold on, guys. I'm going to talk to Fred. Where is Fred? Fred doesn't want to talk to me. 0. I'm not into the Zen thing. Well, thanks. I think it's pretty cool. Well, you must be incredibly brilliant and rich. Or a college student. So, I wish you the best of luck in all of your business dealings. But I would ask you, how many businesses have you started and run for